Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and today we are joined by a very special guest, one of our favorites over here at Nerd Sesh, the one and only Matthew Sponhour is going to talk some ball with us today. Matthew, how the hell are you, my friend?
Well, I'm nervous as always to be on a show like Nerd Sesh.
Of course.
That's a lot of pressure.
Naturally.
But honestly, I'm a little mad at you.
Oh, is this going to be an
I
Eric
mean, you know
Collins
exactly
thing?
what it's going to be.
Dude.
Why are you talking down on Eric Collins?
I don't understand why it's so problematic for me to express my authentic opinion. Look, I got no problem with the guy. I got no problem with other people enjoying his style. It's not for me, though. And to listen to it for 4 quarters of a football game, it's pretty absurd. And it gets on my nerves. And there is just clearly a devout faction of Eric Collins super stands out there because everybody else loves this guy, I guess. It's not for me.
I think you do have a problem with the guy. You can have your opinion. It's 2025. Sure. It's legal, but you do have a problem with the guy. I don't know if you. I guess he's the Hornets guy, and the Hornets don't have much else. So when you go after that, it'd be like going after the '90s jerseys to Charlotte fans. It's like you just can't do that. You got to give us this one.
And I get it.
I think it's a good thing. It gets me hype, but I guess I see your point.
Charlotte sports fans, I literally don't even see a point of engaging because it's like, I get it. That's your guy. No problem whatsoever. And again, I have no problem with anybody enjoying his style, but it is surprising to me how overwhelming the support is for him because it feels to me like when you say, oh, this is too much, people do like the generic knee-jerk, oh, you hate fun? What, he's not allowed to have a little enthusiasm? And people kind of treat it like he's just like a guy who is like a super passionate spectator enjoying the game. And it's like, no, man, he is putting forth a professional presentation. This is his job. So I don't think I'm being like a big cloudy day by just saying, yeah, he doesn't have my favorite style of presenting the game. And like, I am pro enthusiasm, but there's a line to walk here and I won't do the reenactment again. But did you see that touchdown call for Darren Waller to go up 17-0 in the Dolphins-Panthers game? Of course you did. You're watching the game. Like, that's ridiculous. Is that not ridiculous?
I don't think so. Touchdowns are a big deal in this league. And I can't blame Eric Collins for getting excited, man.
It wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't the craziest thing that any of us had ever seen. And with the way that he was screaming to the heavens, you would have thought it was. Now, what the people don't want you to know, Logan is aligned with me on this. Logan, do you care to chime in at all here?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a line. Like, I like Gus Johnson, for example. I think he brings it. And I like Eric Collins for basketball. I just don't think he really works for football. There's this Joe Buck, Eric Collins scale, and I want you somewhere in the middle. I don't want you all the way on. I hate to do this to him. I don't really think Eric Collins watches that much football. When I would flip on the game, I would hear him mispronounce some guys' names, and it would just piss me off to where I had to mute the game when it was on too. Like, I'm okay with that in big moments. We talked about this last show, but, like, it's just incessant. Like, throughout the entire game, bro, an incomplete pass. Like, I think it's cool looking on the highlights, but for an entire game, it's unbearable for me. So I agree with Carson here.
I also do think it's different when, yes, you are the Hornets guy, and Lord knows they need a little life and enthusiasm, and also you're playing to a home crowd there. Like, you are calling the game for Hornets fans. Here, you're calling it for a national audience. And even though he was giving crazy enthusiasm for both sides, it's not like there was a Panthers bias there. Most of the viewers are going to be neutral fans who, at least for me, it's kind of like, really? Like, this isn't as big a deal as you're making it out to be. And it just kind of was distracting from the game, ultimately. I do like a more calm presentation, and some people are like, oh my God, compared to how lifeless and boring most broadcasts are. And I'm like, is that really true? You watch Ian Eagle call a game, you watch Kevin Harlan call a game, you don't prefer that, the guys who still have personality but aren't doing like this crazy shtick? That's where I come down on it. I don't want to hurt your feelings here, Matthew, and I see a sorrow on your face that I just wish
you
I
might
could
not want
wipe
to
off and replace it with a smile.
I'm starting to think NFL fans don't even like anything about football.
No, this is what I'm getting hit with.
Let people have fun. Everyone's got to be negative. No. I look. I guess I get it. I think Collins is the best in the NBA, though. I really do. And If anything, I think he should have been biased towards the Panthers.
Sure. And that's fair. I don't know how long this experiment will go on. It seems like most people really did enjoy it.
The
I
Panthers
totally acknowledge I'm in the minority here.
They are undefeated in the Eric Collins era, though. So
they
there's
are.
that.
You can't deny that, and you can't deny that this generated a lot more positive attention than it did negative, and I guess I'm just the one guy, or along with Logan, we're the two guys, the hive mind on this podcast, who don't really like it as much. But I had a feeling we were going to get to that at some point, and I'm sorry. I really am that we had to start out on any sort of negative note, because it's always such a joy when you come on, Matthew. I mean, it just makes my face light up. It makes my heart sing. And so we're going to talk about some football today, and we're going to have a great time doing it. Now, you know what else makes my heart sing? Those freaking Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval County is having the time of their lives right now. 4-1 after that win on Monday Night Football over the Kansas City Chiefs. So, the biggest win of the Liam Coen tenure so far. There will certainly be bigger ones down the line. But, Matthew, what are you taking away from that performance by the Jags, getting that win over the Chiefs, and their start to the season so far?
It really was a gutsy win. I know that's kind of a scout from Moneyball way to describe
Sure.
it. But the truth is, I feel like Kansas City got a lot of what they wanted. I mean, Jacksonville didn't run the ball, at least like on true runs, that well on them. Mahomes did a great job extending plays, as always. I don't think he took a single sack in that game. And the deep ball and the creation stuff was very alive for them. If I told you that's going to be the game script, you'd say they're going to win and you're going to have to load up a take about how the Chiefs are all right and they look just as fine in the AFC as, maybe you thought they were at the start of the season, even with kind of a rough start. But Jacksonville was able to get it done regardless, and I think it comes down to a couple of things. First off, it's good to see Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. get out there and make some big plays. Lawrence was really spotty last night. I mean, he had some boneheaded Jameis Winston-esque type of mistakes running past a line of scrimmage and throwing it and whatever. And some of his throws were we're going to lob it up and see what happens to Travis Hunter. But honestly, with how uninvolved he's been, I think you'll take that. And knowing that he's maybe the receiver with the best ball skills that was coming out of the draft, I like to see him get those chances. And then on top of that, Brian Thomas Jr., you saw him get another big explosive play down the sideline and a super big moment. And, while Lawrence maybe wasn't perfect all night, that was a great throw. I also thought T-Law did a good job of really pushing to run when things weren't available and did a great job of that. And you give Devin Lloyd a lot of credit for faking out Mahomes, dropping back and getting an interception and taking it all the way. I think Jacksonville's a really strong team. They're great running usually, and they've got the weapons to be super explosive even if they are a little bit inconsistent. I honestly take this game as tonight they can compete with anybody, and this is one where they got a lot of the big swing plays to go their way. Not all of them. They still had some, bad turnovers, but even in spite of that, they were able to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. This is a statement win for both Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. It wasn't perfect, but he really showed his self-creation. He led the Jaguars in rushing, 54 rushing yards, 2 TDs. And yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I think the Jaguars are legit. I think Liam Coen is the real deal, and potentially this might be a top 5 Jaguars team in their franchise history with the way they're trending right now. Obviously, the best stretch of Jaguars football was 96 to 99. Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell, Baselli, Mark Brunell. Like, that team was consistently getting to the playoffs, winning playoff games. They get to the AFC title game one year. And then, obviously, the 2017 Jags. But I think this team this year has a chance to be the 5th group or maybe be even better. The biggest thing to me through 5 weeks for the Jaguars, the offense is encouraging. I agree with you, Matt. It was really nice to see Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter get going. The biggest thing to me is the defense. I think this is the most improved defense in the NFL. You look at where they ranked in specific categories in 2024 to this season. It is remarkable, the turnaround that they have been able to put forth. 31st in yards per play, yards per drive, 27th in points per game allowed. They are now 8th in all of those categories. Last year, they were 31st in points per drive. They are now 4th. And the biggest thing, you touch on it, Matt, with that Devin Lloyd interception, the pick six that basically swings this game. Jacksonville was anemic in terms of big swing plays last year. They were dead last in turnovers with just 9. Through 5 weeks, they've got 14. That is first in the NFL. I'm bought in. Jacksonville has kind of had this stench about them, this stank, this dark cloud that has loomed over them basically the entirety of the Trevor Lawrence era. I think Liam Coen has exorcised those demons. I'm proud of you, Carson. You got these Jaguars whipped into shape, man. They're looking great.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Well, we definitely still have some work to be done. We're really going to drill down the whole line of scrimmage concept with Trev in practice.
Maybe the play clock, too, yeah.
That's going to have to be another week's problem. Right now, we've just seen multiple times he's not totally familiar with the concept of when he is no longer eligible to throw the football forward. It's been a recurring issue this year. But in spite of some of those like really bad mental errors by Lawrence, like you guys have both said, they were able to get a massive win. And I do think that's a testament to the fact that this is a legitimately good football team, a team that some of us actually picked to win this game. Some of us who have been all in with the Jags, some of us who have really put everything in on this team, and it's paying off so far. I think that they're very legit. The crazy thing is they really should be 5-0. Like, if not for a pretty catastrophic Bengals loss that included a very questionable to bad defensive pass interference call against Travis Hunter that gave Cincinnati life. Like, obviously, there are always swing plays in NFL games that go one way or another, and there's tons of one-score games. But I really do feel like it's reasonable to say they should be 5-0 at this point, and at least they're a very solid 4-1. And the defense is overall the bigger reason for that. Their massive turnaround on that side of the ball. Like this year, they're 5th in defensive EPA per play. And the biggest reason for that is because of those massive swing plays. Like, as you mentioned, Matthew, the Chiefs were able to have a pretty successful offensive day overall, and yet the play that determines this game is a 99-yard pick six, and the Jags have just been generating those big plays at a rate that nobody else in the NFL can touch. They have 14 takeaways. That is 4 more than anybody else. Devin Lloyd alone has 5 takeaways in 5 games. I mean, it's just ridiculous the level that he's playing at. And I do think you have to credit Anthony Campanelli, not the authentic Italian pronunciation, by the way, of that last name, but we'll allow it. I guess it's the Americanization, and that's what he wants to go with. But creating some confusion and some chaos on the back end, and also just like their secondary overall, I've been impressed with. Jordan Lewis, I think, has been a great addition for them. And then we know they've got a couple of high-end pass rushers up front, even though they weren't able to get a sack on Mahomes in this game. And I believe that was only the 4th time in his career Patrick Mahomes has lost in a game where he didn't take a sack. The Jags have proven themselves to be a good defense overall, and they made the one massive play they needed on that side of the ball, and they were able to get a couple stops late in this game. Obviously, Mahomes only gets the ball back with 23 seconds, so that's a tough spot to score, but not an impossible one, and they've got him working backwards on that final series for the most part. And then offensively, the run game is elite here. That's been the consistent floor-setting aspect of this offense. Liam Coen, I just think, is as good as anybody when it comes to engineering a high-end run game, and obviously has totally revitalized ETN, and he just overall makes the offensive floor for this team pretty high. But their ceiling is going to totally hinge on the passing game, in my opinion, and it's going to hinge on Trevor Lawrence and what these big-time playmakers, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, both of whom really struggled early in the year, are capable of doing. T-Law is a wild viewing experience. Like, we've talked about it, but some of these boneheaded moments of the illegal forward pass, I mean, the delay of game, 2nd and 10, 45 seconds left in the red zone, that's like unbelievably painful stuff to watch. And he took a bad sack a couple plays earlier when it's like, dude, you just got to get rid of the ball. Don't take a negative play. Don't keep the clock running. Throw the ball away. And yet, in spite of some of these low lows, like, he also has some of these really high highs, and he's a hell of an athlete. Like, I think it's great that he's using his legs more, and he can create some of those plays out of structure with his legs that just not that many guys can. And like, he does make a couple of really high level throws in this game. We know he has the arm talent, but then he also has the accuracy and consistencies. Like, he is erratic. He is up and down, and he's too erratic for the Jags to be a contender, but he's good enough And he's been put in good enough circumstances here with all the other stuff that this team does well for them to be a very good team, considering all that is in place here. So I really do like the Jags. I had them top 10 in my contender rankings coming into this week. Like, I am bought in, and I know their limitations, but I also think they have some really big strengths that I don't know that everybody was acknowledging enough coming into this game. And beating a team like Kansas City is how you get more credit for that. And it was good, definitely, to see BTJ, Travis Hunter both make a couple of those big plays, like you mentioned, Matthew. I mean, the kind of 50-50 jump ball into double coverage for Travis Hunter. He hasn't had a play like that all year, and he's got a nice play after the catch on a screen. BTJ coming up with that big clutch catch. Like, they've just got to get their confidence going. And overall, I think this offense still has another level to hit. And maybe T-Law is too inconsistent. But I just think, like, Coen is awesome, and I think he's, in a lot of ways, putting these guys in positions where they're meant to succeed, right? Leaning on the run game. T-Law's barely been pressured overall this year, and so that's where he sets the floor. But at the same time, I do think that he is an aggressive offensive mind, and he wants to get the absolute most out of this group. And there have just been a couple bumps in the road, right, with like one or two really bad decisions or bad throws a game from T-Law, BTJ, Travis Hunter not being at the level that you would have liked, and they're still 4-1. Mm-hmm. So I think if they clean up some of this stuff offensively, like, they're just going to look even better.
Yeah, I think there's just too much talent on this offense to not feel like it could peak a lot higher than it is right now. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. inexplicably, like,
right,
shying away from contact in those first couple of games or whatever, and maybe sometimes not being on the same page as Lawrence. You have to assume a guy who was, like second-team All-Pro as a rookie isn't going to play like that. A crazy athlete like that isn't just going to completely fall off the face of the earth. Travis Hunter, I mean, I know we don't know and he's a rookie, but somebody who's an explosive playmaker like him who they've had trouble working in, you have to figure there's a lot of room for them to start working somebody like that in. Again, right, especially with like the catch that we saw last night. And the run game already is one of the best in the NFL. It's been phenomenal. The offensive line's done a fantastic job there, and Cohen's play design is great. We saw it in Tampa, and we're seeing it now. And you've got a quarterback who, is erratic, but makes everything available to the offense, which is more than you can say for a lot of guys. So when you have all of those pieces in place, you've got to think things could get better. Now, going forward, you might not get as many turnovers as you have. 14 in 5 games is a pace that you can't keep up. And making good and being 4-1 through that is nice, and it's a good thing, and you should feel good. And the Jaguars, I feel like for so long, have been a team that doesn't do that. But I think they're going to have to find another more consistent level on offense if they want to keep pace with what they're doing right now. And it would be tough to imagine an erratic quarterback like Trevor Lawrence or a hot-cold offense like the Jaguars that relies on turnovers a lot, maybe going on a huge run in the playoffs if they don't get just a little bit more overall consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think the expectation for this season should be to either win this division or to just get to the playoffs. You know, it's baby steps in the NFL, and Trevor Lawrence is going to determine all of that. I think Trevor Lawrence, to me, is still the variable about this football team that I'm concerned about with most. He's very erratic. He is inconsistent, and Trevor just lacks this sort of, I don't know, control. Like, it's weird. Like, we're talking about some of the issues that he's having with the line of scrimmage and the delay of game. It's just like these are problems that are unique to Trevor Lawrence that you don't really see with any other quarterbacks. And I think Theo tweeted this out, but like rookie mistakes, like these are like first season stuff. So I think T-Law is ultimately going to determine what this team can do. But I like all of the periphery around him. I like all of the surrounding pieces, the offensive line, the running game, the receivers, the defense. Like, this is so clearly the best team that he has ever had around him, the best coaching staff that he's ever had around him. And the grace that I will give T-Law is he still has all the traits that we bought into, right? Like, that hasn't gone anywhere. So I can see him playing better as the season goes along, as he gets more and more comfortable with this system. What I will say, I'll be disappointed with Jacksonville if they don't come away from this season with at least 10 wins with how they've started out this season. I look the rest of this schedule, say they lose all the 50-50 games, at a minimum, they've got the Raiders, the Cardinals, 2 games against the Titans, and they've got the Jets. They should walk all over in every one of those games.
Yeah, and I do think you are right to point out the takeaway variance going their way right now, Matthew. I do also think they're not going to keep generating 3 per game, right? But I do think that this is a defense designed to create some of those turnovers at a pretty high rate. So I think they're still going to be quite good at that. And I think the offense is going to become more consistent. So that's where I think the Jags formula for this entire year isn't going to look exactly like what it did through the first 3 games. Maybe it looks more like it did in this one, though, where like the offense, even though it's still kind of up and down, like it has more bite to it, and they make that one big play defensively. They've got talent on both sides of the ball, and that's why I've been such a big stockholder in the Jags. Like, I just think their coaching last year was genuinely catastrophic, and now they've got this absolute sex machine, this fucking sex pistol, this wizard at head coach, and he's changed everything. He's very arguably coach of the year up to this point. And just some more numbers that I think speak to how much he puts this offense in great positions. We know the run game is excellent. They're 5th in rushing yards. They're 7th in rushing yards per attempt. They are also, I believe, 4th in yards off of screens. And Trevor Lawrence is the 3rd least pressured quarterback in football. So I have been underwhelmed by T-Law this year because I was thinking Liam Coen is so great. I was expecting even a little bit more of a T-Law resurgence. And he still has a lot of these flaws, and I just wish maybe that he had had better coaching in his earlier years so they could have ironed out some of these like immaturity decision-making things with him. But regardless, even with T-Law being up and down, the Jags have been a very good football team. So I'm going to ask you this, Matthew, because I'm very on the record. Do you like the Jags most in the AFC South?
Most in the AFC South. We had this same conversation on the Wonderful Stay Hot podcast.
Stealing talking points from the Wonderful Stay Hot podcast.
Yeah, you are. I guess I'm still maybe leaning the Colts a little bit.
That's fair.
I think it's tough because maybe you feel like with Jacksonville there's more room for growth out of Lawrence, whereas with Indianapolis, you feel like there's more room for regression with Daniel Jones. And you're kind of waiting for the wheels to fall off of this thing. But the issue is that Daniel Jones has been playing well. And there's a little bit of like denial of the eyes that you have to do to give the take like, well, they're just kind of phony. Because outside of that, like there really isn't anything phony about Indianapolis. I like a lot of what they've done. Their run game is obviously phenomenal. The offensive line's been great. I'm a really big fan of the weapons that they have there, and Lou Anarumo's really changed that defense, clearly. So I don't believe that they're just like some happens to be hot, happens to get in the right situation. I mean, they're like, they'll go up against the Raiders and they'll blow them out by like 40, right? I mean, that's what you expect dominant teams to do. So I'll give them a lot of credit. But I also like, if you're saying Jaguars because you think in the long run you like Lawrence over Jones, it's like, I have a hard time saying that's not like what my priors would have been 5 games ago. And how quickly should you change your mind about teams like that is definitely a tough decision. But when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I said I'm leaning Colts, and I'll continue to lean Colts until I see some real evidence otherwise.
For me, it's not even that I like T-Law more than Daniel Jones. Coming into the year and early in the year, that was my stance. Now, 5 weeks deep, Daniel Jones has just looked considerably better. But it is what you were saying, Matthew, in the sense that like there is still more room for growth with T-Law, and there is more room for regression with Daniel Jones. Because the gap in quarterback play up to this point in the year, it's been big. I think it's likely that Daniel Jones comes a little bit more back to earth. T-Law plays a little bit better. And it's not that T-Law is going to be better than Daniel Jones this year. But then if that gap shrinks, I do like the overall infrastructure and talent in Jacksonville more. I think their defense is more dynamic, more talented. And I think offensively, they have even more playmakers. And I like the Colts playmakers a lot. But if you get the peak version of Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. compared to what we got the first few weeks, I mean, that is a group that has a potential to be elite in terms of the receiving talent, and the run game is going to be elite. And both these guys are great coaches. I am a Liam Coen stan, and I also think that what Campanelli's done, I would give the coaching staff edge slightly to the Jags. It's certainly very close. I came into the year, I was dismissive of the Colts. Like you said, I mean, they've just been taking care of business against all the shitty teams in like a very authoritative way. And that's not what mid-fake teams do, right? They might squeak past against the shitty teams.
I mean, the Colts could have been
20,
the Colts
30.
could be undefeated right now too if they just don't shit
could.
their pants against LA.
Well, and by that you mean the A.D. Mitchell fumble, because other than that.
And A.D. Mitchell bringing back the Jonathan Taylor 70-yard TD run.
Yeah, I mean, I think on some level you could do that for every team. The Jaguars are, 3-1 in one-score games? That's a good mark. You take that even if you can point to a way it could have been 4-0.
That's fair.
And even the Colts are 1-1, and they should have won against the Rams, but they also should have lost against the Broncos.
Absolutely.
They should have lost that game.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So,
I think that's a great point. That totally cancels out the should have been this, should have been that, because it's rare that you have such an unequivocal, yeah, you were gifted that one. And not to say that the leverage call was wrong, but that's the ultimate example of, oh, they won the game. No, actually they lost the game because of one call at the end of the game.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to look at one-score games and say, hey, this team is 4-4, but they're 4-0 and they're one-score games. How real are they? But I think it's hard to get into a close game in the NFL like that and not be able to say, well, this one thing or this other. And while I don't know, I'm reluctant to believe in Daniel Jones, like I've said, because we've seen 6 years of him. Yeah. Of him not being that great, or maybe 5. He had 1 year where it was better with the Giants or whatnot. I can't sit here and tell you that a team that's 3-1 in one-score games and with 14 takeaways doesn't also have a little bit of potential for regression. Lawrence definitely has the talent to play better, but it's by no means a given. The only thing that I feel really like this should turn around is just the receiver play and the involvement. And maybe that alone is enough to make the passing offense with a quarterback who screws up sometimes good enough. It's really, it's interesting where the AFC South is right now.
It is. I think both of these teams are definitely better than the consensus would have thought coming into the year. I think both these teams should be in the playoffs. So, I am a Jags truther, but I am no longer a Colts denier. I think the Colts are legitimately good, too. I think both these should be double-digit win teams and should probably end up in the playoffs. But there was another team in this game that also wants to be in that spot, double-digit wins in the playoffs. It's where they've lived for quite some time now. Logan, what do you take away from the Chiefs falling to 2-3 in this game?
I don't know. I mean, they're not a juggernaut. I think the one thing that has been proven through these 5 weeks is kind of what I thought about the Chiefs at the start of the year, is just they're going to have to be more reliant on Patrick Mahomes more than ever. And they have an anemic running game. I mean, they looked a little bit better in this one against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I don't feel fundamentally different about them. Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, and Brashard Smith don't really instill a ton of confidence in me. Obviously, they're still waiting on Rashee Rice to get healthy, and I think this offense will be a little bit more volatile and explosive when they're at full strength with Worthy, with Rice, with Kelsey. But, the reason this team was so great was because they had an elite defense and a really solid offensive line, and Mahomes is going to do enough offensively. I don't think this defense is as dominant as it's been over the past few years. I don't think this offensive line is as great as it's been, and so this just feels like the most vulnerable the Chiefs have been ever in the Mahomes era. They're still in my top 10 despite the, sub 500 record. I would never fully count out a team that has Patrick Mahomes. Honestly, with the way the Chargers' offensive line has looked, I was all in on the Chargers very early on in this season. I would probably still take the Chiefs to win the AFC West. I think the Chiefs are going to be okay, but I just don't look at them as the world beater that they've been. I think the defense has taken a little bit of a step back. I think the offensive line has taken a little bit of a step back, and we're going to have to see how great this offense can be, because I don't really see a path to them getting better in those two areas. So the only area where I see the Chiefs maybe really hitting their stride is if this offense can be really explosive with all of their weapons at full strength. They've got good depth. I like the totality of the receiving room with Hollywood and Juju as your fourth and fifth guys. I think Tyquan Thornton's probably the best wideout that they have outside of Worthy right now, so he should be the 3. That's the big swing factor, I think, for the Chiefs this season, is just how great this offense can be, because I don't know. I'm just more out on the offensive line and the defense than I have been in years previous.
Wow, it's interesting you keep hitting the offensive line. I think the offensive line has been pretty good. I think
mean, they
they've
just don't get-
protected well.
I mean, in pass pro, they don't get any push in the run game. Like, I think that's pretty crucial.
I think the problem with the run game is more that the running back play is that bad.
I think Brashard Smith's probably the best one out of the bunch, which is pretty sad considering he's a 7th-round pick. But they're just not dominant in the way they've been in years previous. Those have been the cornerstones of this team. And obviously Mahomes coming through whenever they need. Yeah, I mean, the offensive
line, I think, was worse last year.
I mean, they fell apart last year. They were great for most of the year.
I just think it's a better group at this point than last year. Mahomes is the 4th least pressured quarterback in terms of pressure rate. I think the passing attack is going to be really, really good. I think we've already
when Rice
seen
comes
how
back,
much
it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, like we've already seen with Worthy back out there having a playmaker like that. I mean, the speed in this offense is crazy. Tyquan Thornton, dude, like if you're going to blitz Mahomes, you can't leave him one-on-one without safety help. Like he just wins. He's just too fast. The play that he made in this game where he like burns his dude by 10 yards and then he comes back to the ball and beats him there too and makes a catch. Like that dude's a weapon. Worthy's a monster. Rice is the best receiver on this team. So I think the passing attack is going to be very good. I do definitely worry about the run game because I just think it's bad. And I think that their running back room is terrible. I don't know why you would go into this season with that running back room. And I think that they still like running the ball too much. And if you look at their overall rushing numbers on the year, they're going to be inflated by Patrick Mahomes because he's having the best running season of his career.
Every game, man.
It's crazy.
Every game, it's like, well, they only average, and then you got to take out Mahomes 60
Exactly.
yards on 8 attempts or whatever it is. For
Exactly, dude. This is the year Mahomes is on pace to like double his previous career rushing high in a season. I think his previous high is 389. He's on pace for like 650 this year. So I think we'll see less of him scrambling once Rice is back. But yeah, he's inflating how the run game looks if you just look at the numbers without context because the handoffs have been very unsuccessful. So I worry really just about the run game and then the defense. We talked about last year the regression from the 2023 group that was really elite. And last year, because they played this kind of grinded out low possession style, some of the like low scoring games indicated the defense was a little better than it maybe actually was when you really dove into stuff. And now they lose Justin Reed. I think that they miss him as a pretty dependable safety. They haven't defended the run well. They're 26th in rushing yards per attempt allowed. The pass rush has just been okay. Chris Jones hasn't been the monster that he usually is for them. Like, that group has to improve. The defense has been overall a little bit below average this year. And I think that because I believe in Spags a lot, they can get better. And like in a big game, I think he's got this psycho factor if he can dial up some stuff. And we've seen the Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie superstar factor, and all that is good and well. But on average, it's just not that talented a defense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think with the Chiefs, it's kind of hard to understand exactly what's happened with them without looking at just one-score game luck a little bit. I mean, everyone's trying to figure out, okay, exactly what happened last season that allowed them to go, win 15 games or whatever. Yeah. And part of it was, like, they were very good at just always picking up first downs. Their success rate was super high, even though they weren't explosive. And that's how Mahomes was getting it done in spite of, like, just not having the receivers to go play, the way he wants to. But I think they also went, like, 10-1 in one-score games. I mean, they were totally ridiculous. Okay, they were 11-1 in one-score games. That's something you're not going to keep up. Now you're sitting here, they're 2-3, and they're, I believe, 0-3 in one-score games.
Sorry, they were actually 11-0. They were 11-0.
They were 11-0 in one-score games, and now I think they're 0-3 in one-score games. That's a lot of it right there. They easily could have won this one. They easily could be 5-0 with last year's luck. It's really not that hard to imagine. I don't know if they're a totally wildly different team, to be completely honest with you. They are in some ways because, especially like for the first couple of games, they were back to being like just horrible at receiver. But I think the defense probably is what it is. I just don't think they're that crazy talented. And if Chris Jones isn't Superman, like one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, like a true tier 1 guy, then it's really tough to see a way that they end up being like, as good as they were when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But offensively, you've got some room to gain because you can be an explosive offense in a way that you weren't. And I think the run game could be better if they make a trade. I feel like it's rare you say that in the NFL. That's more of an NBA thing or whatever. But, like, man, if the Dolphins end up blowing it up and A-Chain's available, make that call. I would move big picks to try to get him on the team. I think it could make a massive difference. And it would make a massive difference, not only in that, but in the pass game as well. Somebody who defenses have to really pay attention to. So I think Kansas City could get pretty dang good on offense. I think they could be, one of the elite teams statistically by the end of the season. But I think the defense is what it is. That being said, you look around the NFL landscape, it doesn't seem like anybody is so dominant that you can't go on a run. And if you're rolling into the postseason saying the defense is only all right, but the offense is cooking, and we've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got a shot.
And you've got the Spags big game factor. I mean, we've definitely seen some of these Chiefs defenses, like even last year, right, when they had a lot of average performances in the regular season, like they can generate some big plays for you on defense with those crazy blitzes, which haven't been as effective early this year. Maybe they're missing a Justin Reed on the back end there just in terms of that safety stability. But overall, I'm really not too worried about the Chiefs. They just don't look that different than I expected. I think Rashee Rice is going to help this team. I think we've already seen the passing game improve, and I do think this offense is going to be very good. Preseason, I said this will be the best Chiefs offense since 2022. Not as good as that group. That was a great offense. But I do think it will be better than the last two Chiefs offenses we've seen. Now, is it going to be the Bills offense, the Lions offense, the Ravens offense when Lamar gets back out there? No, I don't think it's there. But I think it's in that next group of very good. And then you have the Mahomes factor in a big game. And certainly nobody's perfect out there. Nobody's nerfect, as Logan likes to say. And with that being said, here we are. We're 5 weeks deep. There's no undefeated teams left. The Jags are one of the elite 4-1 teams, but the Chiefs are 2-3. The Ravens are 1-4. You look around the league, and Logan, do you see a great team in the NFL right now?
No, not really. The only take that I have about, if I had to, my top three teams right now, and Lord knows this has changed so much throughout 5 weeks, every single week. I think it would be Green Bay, Buffalo, and the Rams. I think Green Bay has the highest ceiling out of any of these teams. When I look at Buffalo's run defense still really scares me. How much is that really going to matter when it comes into the playoffs? I don't know. If they ran into Baltimore, I think Baltimore's probably going to miss the playoffs at this stage in the season. That's really easy to say, obviously, since they've started out so shitty.
It's interesting. We had a discussion about that.
Who do you think wins the AFC North?
If you told me their defense was going to be healthy and that Lamar would be back after this next game, I'd still say they'd be all right and they'd sneak in. I do think they might just miss. Because if you get down to 1-5, you could probably lose 7 games and still make it pretty reliably with a 7 seed. And their schedule is incredibly light after the Rams game. So it's things are lined up, but if you're going to blow a few games because of the defense, Lamar can only do so much. He's not, perfect or whatever. So I'm pretty nervous about them. They're not totally out of it for a 1-4 team, but it's tough.
Yeah. I agree for what it's worth. If you put a gun to my head, and please don't, I would still take the Ravens to win the AFC North because I think the division is that weak, and I think 10 games with the tiebreaker gets you in, and I think the schedule is light. But they're going to be 1-5, and we talked about this last show. There are 3 teams in NFL history that have made the playoffs after starting 1-5. So historically, that would tell you the odds are incredibly long. I do think the circumstances here are very unique, though, and the talent is very different than every other 1-5 team in NFL history. And I mean that literally. I think they will be the most talented team to ever start 1-5. And obviously some of this health stuff just has to get better fast. Madubuike, he's not coming back. But you need to get all these other guys, Kyle Hamilton and Roquan and Marlon Humphrey, back on the field. Zach Orr needs to get his shit together. Harbaugh needs to get his shit together. Derrick Henry's got to start looking more like himself. There's still a lot that has to come together for the Ravens. But I think I'm just going to bank on that talent just enough. But obviously they're in dire straits right now.
Yeah, there's too many red flags for me with the Ravens. I think the Steelers are going to win the division pretty easily. I think we beat the Ravens in one game. Easily. And then, I think the Ravens are fucked, personally. I just think they got boned this year. Lamar would need to go on a Tim Tebow esque run, like where they just don't lose. They run the table.
I've always said Lamar needs to play more like Tebow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Ravens are done. And so with the Bills, it's interesting because, like, I look around the AFC and some of the potential matchups that they may run into. The Colts, like, are the only team that I really think could bludgeon Buffalo on the ground like that, and that's their Achilles heel. So Buffalo, I don't know if that's really going to factor in until, like, the Super Bowl potentially. The Rams are up here for me. The Rams just can't put the damn ball in the end zone. They move the ball really easily, and then they just get stonewalled inside the 20. But I like them on both sides of the ball. So they would be my top three. Green Bay, I think, has the highest ceiling. Jordan Love is still a little bit erratic. So, no, I don't think, at this point in the season, I don't think there's a great team. I think that anybody, it's really any given Sunday. I think anybody could kind of fall to anybody. But those would be my top three, and yet I kind of see decent flaws with everybody.
What do you think, Matthew?
I guess it kind of depends. I mean, if we're talking about anybody who's like great in all four phases, run defense, passing offense, rushing offense.
Special teams
the answer
erasure.
is special teams erasure. I know it's what two-thirds of the game, but
At least.
at least. I think I can still call some teams great in spite of that. I guess this is turning it into like a semantics. What does superstar mean? What does generational mean type of conversation? But I think the Bills are a great team still. They have a very capable defense, and they have an offense that can truly go into a game and say, we're going to win this one on the ground or we're going to win this one through the air. And they have a superstar quarterback leading the way. I think there's a lot of offenses, or maybe you find offenses that are great throwing the ball and can run. The Bills are great throwing the ball and are great running the ball as well. Yeah. I think the Lions are showing to still have a great offense and a defense that has an Aiden Hutchinson who has showed up really well early in the season in spite of just like a horrific injury. I'm super surprised by it. I still have some questions about their secondary overall, but their pass defense as a whole I don't think has been that bad. And while the Packers loss was bad, and you do have some concerns about like Goff under pressure and whether or not he can get through a playoff run without any issues, I still think they're a pretty great team. And by, I don't know, week 10, maybe some of the early season we got, exposed in our one weakness in this game, or we had some bad variance stuff can be ironed out, and maybe we see, like you said, Green Bay start to really round out and be as dominant as they could be. There's also some other teams like, I don't know, the Colts, if you
Tampa
see
Bay.
them do what they're doing by week 10. Tampa, yeah, I don't know about Tampa defensively. I think their pass defense is really weak. But they've been banged up. They've been injured. So I'm still willing to see with that. And their receiver room should be completely elite. If they can get fully healthy. So I'm excited for that. I'm a big Ibuka guy, and I like Tez Johnson in there as well. And Mike Evans is so consistent and whatnot. Are they going to be able to feed Mike Evans enough to get him to the 1,000 yards?
It's a great
after
question.
He's missed all of these games. Are they going to have to spam it to him?
It's an important question. I mean, Jalen McMillan is going to come back at some point. Sterling Shepard is actually playing well. Like, their receiver depth, if you go 1 to 6, it's got to be the best room in the NFL overall when they're fully healthy. Because Ibuka, I mean, I know you and your Buckeyes, but wow, he is really something else. The guy's incredible. But that being said, they're not in the conversation for being a great team to me. Maybe I'm the pessimist here. Maybe I'm the guy who doesn't like hum-diddly-dee Eric Collins, and I've got a higher bar for what great means. And I agree with you, Matthew. It is sort of ambiguous.
It's ambiguous. I'll tell you this. There's no team that is great in all four phases. That is truly, every team has a serious weakness, and therefore there's no dominant teams. When we talk, if we extend that to like, well, what about teams that can contend? Well, then of course, like things open up.
Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to win the Super Bowl.
Somebody's going to win. I think there's a good number of teams that are pretty good, that are very good.
I agree with that, but very good is not great. So, here's how I would define it, and now we will get into semantics a bit. You said serious weakness. I think that's a great way to put it. Like, if you have a serious weakness, it's difficult for me to consider you a great team. So I'll give
Nobody
you an
feels
example.
ungettable. at all.
Nobody feels ungettable. And even beyond that, like, if you look at last year, okay, I would have called absolutely the 2024 Eagles are a great team. Now, they had a flaw with the inconsistency of the passing attack, but it was not to the extent of some of the flaws that we're talking about now among all of these teams that we consider to be among the best.
You know,
like
I think by the end of the year that was true. In the middle of the season with Philadelphia, that was not the case. They were having virtually the same issues that they're having right now, although they are worse right now.
Yeah,
and I think
it's never been this bad. It's
never been this. I mean, they're throwing for 0 yards and a half type of situation.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I do think like the degree of it matters there. But you are right. And so I will say that's why I will put it as there are no great teams right now. I can't rule out the possibility. Like, if you look at the Ravens through the first few weeks of last year, they weren't looking that good. By the end of the regular season, they were playing like a great team. They were playing like a juggernaut. Now, they still lost second round, but like they were playing like the best defense in football for the last 6-7 weeks of the regular season, 6-7, and they were playing like one of the absolute best offenses. If you look 2023, the Ravens, the Niners, that year, like I look back in recent years, and most of these seasons, I do see a couple teams that I would consider great. Honestly, the Lions, even though they got dropped in their first playoff game last year, I thought that was a great team in the regular season. Now, the defense was a flaw, but everybody got hurt, so that's
they ended up getting killed.
Right. Right now, I don't see a team that I view as being complete enough to consider them a great team. Like, I think the Bills are the best offense in football. I think you put it well, Matthew. I think they're one of the best offenses this century. It took them like shooting themselves in the foot in a kind of exceptional way this past week to not score 30 for the 5th time this year. Like, they are as consistent an offensive formula as we've ever seen, but they're 22nd in points allowed per drive. They're 28th in rushing yards allowed. They're 30th in rushing yards per attempt allowed. The pass rush is still mad. The safety situation is still concerning to me. They're still not a like dynamic disruptor playmaker on this defense, and that's what I worry could come back to get them. They're my favorite, but I don't have like the utmost confidence in them. The Eagles, we talk about the offensive issues. I mean, it's really a major concern at this point. They are 25th.
It's the biggest concern of any team that is competing for a Super Bowl right now. Truly,
yeah.
I think I would call it that crazy. Their passing offense against zone is just unacceptably bad. It's a complete disaster, and it ruins the entire offense. I would be surprised if they don't make an offensive coordinator change at some point in the season if this keeps up, because if that's better, they're the best team in the NFL.
Right.
I think easily to me.
They've got the ceiling. I mean, we saw it last year, obviously, but with the offensive talent they have,
they're incapable of running the ball, too.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the even more inexplicable part to me, the fact that they've been so ineffective on the ground. They're 29th in net yards per rush attempt. So they're 29th in overall yards per play.
Well, that probably does them a little bit better what hurts his numbers, because Saquon's been bottom 3 in yards per carry this season.
Yeah, well, they're bottom 4 as a team, and in overall yards per play, they're bottom 4, and they're only above the Bengals, the Browns, and the Titans. And even the defense, it hasn't been as dominant as last year's. I mean, last year's Eagles defense was one of the best we've seen this century. This year, they lost a little talent, and they're 25th in rushing yards per attempt allowed, so that hasn't been as strong. So the Eagles have definitely taken a step back from last year. I agree with you, Matthew. They have the path to getting back because they have offensive talent in a way the Bills don't have defensive talent. But there's also some major, major flaws in this offense, and I do think that they are very coordinator dependent. We've seen those ups and downs over the last few years. Hurts has his limitations as a processor, as a decisive thrower of the football. He can take too many sacks. He can hold the ball too long.
That's what makes me more frustrated than anything is like, look, I don't know if the Eagles offense is ever going to be like a perfect, well-oiled machine. Like, I feel like they're always going to have these bouts of being oddly bad, even though they've got a quarterback that's won Super Bowl MVP and they're paying a big bunch of money and these great receivers and this great, and these great tackles or whatever. But I think they could get so much more done if at the minimum Hurts was just more willing to take off if he didn't like what he saw. I know a lot of quarterbacks probably feel like that's kind of cheating the game and that there's a ceiling on how far you can get with doing that type of stuff, but there's an even greater ceiling or maybe a bigger floor on the guys who aren't willing to do that. He gets crushed back there, and he should be somebody who is a brutal headache to deal with every game, because he's not only somebody who you should have to spy all the time and have to account for all the time and neuter your pass rush to try to contain and take care of, but also he's strong, and it should be like this guy, even though he's quick enough to keep up with Hurts, is a mismatch, and Hurts can break that, tackle and go for a big gain. I think he should lean more into running, not only to avoid taking sacks, but to make defenses respect that and hopefully open up everything else. You can get a long way throwing to your first read and running the ball. It's not perfect. It's not what you want to be doing. But if you had a guy who didn't take sacks and took off all the time and would at least throw a great deep ball to A.J. Brown and could do well against man because the receivers are great, I think you'd be in a lot better position than you are now. You cannot take the sacks that he does. That's how you end up with, 1,000,000 3-and-outs like Philadelphia had.
I agree. And also, especially when you talk about just being decisive and getting the ball to your elite playmakers who they have in this offense. Now, as you mentioned, they struggle more against zone. That's kind of a more effective approach against man if you get any sort of one-on-one look. But it is very concerning. And the lack of scrambling. Jalen Hurts is not top 10 in the NFL in scrambles this year. That should not be the case, especially when they're struggling as much as they are to actually move the ball downfield through the air. So that's a major concern. And you look around at everybody else. I mean, those were the last two undefeated teams left, but we already talked about the Chiefs. Even though I think they're better than their record, they are 2-3, and they don't have super elite talent on their team, and they're not really doing anything at an elite level right now. The Ravens, we can talk about theoretical potential until the cows come home.
I gotta point to the record at some point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I agree. Well, there's no way to call them a great team. Maybe they're one of the few that has the potential, but holy shit, so much would have to go right. So much would have to go right with major urgency, with no margin. The Chargers are a team that maybe early in the year you thought had the potential. The offensive line is just straight up criminal right now.
Too hurt. I agree, though, but just too hurt now. You can't be
way too hurt
both the tackles. And
it's just a total disaster.
Just, you invest in trying to make the run game better. Both running backs on IR, both tackles, I don't know if Alt is out for 6 weeks or if he's on IR or how they did that. But both tackles out is just brutal. The receiver room is better, though. Their weapons are starting to get there. Shout out Quentin Johnston. For
sure. But Justin Herbert is going to be playing football in a horror simulator for the next few weeks. This last week was so ridiculous, bro. I was maybe the most impressive performance I've ever seen from a quarterback with that box score who put up 10 points. And I know everybody is going to knee-jerk say, if man, glazing Herbert, not his fault, whatever. But
he's got the highest pressure rate over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
And the throws he's making, negated by penalties that are on the offensive line, being pressured into tight windows. He's so damn good.
This is a good stat. The Chargers, Herbert has faced 81 combined pressures over the last 3 games on the season. Josh Allen has 80.
No, I think that was last season Josh Allen had 80 over the 17 games.
You're exactly right, bro. That's the entire last season. That's diabolical, bro.
It is. So Herbert has to deal with all that nonsense. The other LA team is a good shout, Logan. I think the Rams are in these conversations. Matthew, you don't think so?
Their back 7 defensively is too bad.
Well, that's the concern. I think that they definitely need to upgrade it.
Sucks.
Emmanuel Forbes sucks.
Oh my God! And he was on AJ Brown at times and stuff versus
dude. He can't.
The only time the Eagles' passing attack has looked good.
Yeah, in that one half.
Yeah.
I think with the Rams, I don't want to disrespect them too hard because Stafford is a demon, and I mean Nakua is as good as any receiver, and you got Adams there, and McVay's a great coach, and a pass rush like what they've got can get you a long way, right? But I think the idea with them is sometimes they can go and get anybody, right? They were so close to beating the Eagles last year, and it's This is a team you don't want to see in the playoffs, and it's could they get hot and go on a run? Yeah. But does that make them a team that I'd consider in a truly flawless, great sort of category? No. I think that's kind of taking what you like about them and maybe forgetting a little bit of their weaknesses, because defensively they're just not close to being complete, honestly.
That's fair. I will say, I think this is definitely the best roster that they've had. Like last 2 years, I think that was absolutely true. The Rams started slow. They were below 500 deep into the year, and then it's, whoa, they get hot. They've got the Stafford factor. They've got the McVay factor. They've got the Puka factor. But now they also have Devontae. Now their offensive line has just been healthier than last year. The run game has been better. If Kyren Williams could just stop fucking fumbling, like other than that, the run game has been really good. And the pass rush now, last year, by the end of the year, they had really hit their stride, but it was such a young defense with such major changes. It took them a while. It wasn't really until like the last handful of weeks of the regular season that even that pass rush was what it is now, which is up there for the best pass rush in football. So when you've got elite quarterback, best wide receiver duo in football, elite play caller, good run game, and you've got an elite pass rush.
It's a lot of
They're
good
close.
stuff.
They're close. I agree
Yeah.
with you. They're a trade away is what I would say. If they can upgrade at corner significantly, then they really factor into these conversations. Right now, they're more in like that 5th to 7th best team range for me, probably. But even though they've got 2 losses, like they're 2 losses to good teams. They were right there in both of them. I think the Rams have been
but
about
I
as
really think that
consistent as anybody.
I agree. And they're 1-score losses, but I thought they lost both those games because they're just so weak in the secondary. They're just so weak in the back end.
I think they lost the Eagles game because they got 2 kicks blocked, man. I mean, if we're going to, the theme of this episode so far is, oh, this team should be this. We're reversing wins and losses. But
They have 2 1-score
crazy
wins.
as it gets.
1-score wins. So they're
I know, but okay,
equally
2
lucky.
blocked kicks. If they make either one of them, they win the football game. That's pretty exceptional. And look,
So you're just saying the special teams isn't even part of the game when we already know it's 80%
it's a
of the
huge
game.
part of the game. It's 90 to 95% of the game last I checked. So that's a good point. I do really like the Rams. I think ultimately the 4 teams with the highest ceilings to me are the Bills because they have the best offense and that just gives them a really good chance to go in there. They're so consistent. They can hang 30 on anybody, and the defense just has to be good enough. The Eagles, because the all-around football talent on that team, both sides of the ball, is still significant, but they've got a lot to work out. And then I look at the 2 NFC North teams. I mean, I've been a huge Packers guy. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the year. I can't call them a great team because we need to see Love be more consistent, even though he's been quite good overall this year. And the defense wasn't what it had been in the first 3 weeks against the Cowboys. I still think they probably have the highest outright ceiling, though. I mean, Philly's right there, but the level of offensive dynamism that Green Bay has already achieved and the level of defensive dominance they have already achieved, like if you just put the best of the best on both sides of the ball together, the Packers have hit the highest highs of any team this year. It's just also coincided with some lower lows on both sides of the ball, letting up 40, although I thought that was mostly incredible offense from the Cowboys, but a really bad offensive performance against the Browns. Like, there's a little less certainty there, but the potential is really through the roof. The Lions, though, I was somebody who said, hey, Green Bay's the team in this division coming into the year. I still thought the Lions were going to be very good, but expecting a little regression with the offensive line changes, with the coordinator changes. In week 1, it felt like affirmed that. And now ever since then, last 4 weeks, is there any question the Lions have been the best team in football, the most dominant, most convincing team in football? That offensive formula is still top 3 in the sport, and they've got a lot of defensive talent. I think they have more defensive talent than like the Bills, for example. So I agree with the Goff versatility concerns. That's why I can't say that they are the great team, but I can't keep them out of those top tier conversations right now because they're just bludgeoning teams.
I think
right now.
they're
doing
top tier team.
2024 Lions stuff. Yeah,
They're a top tier team.
I agree. But ultimately, I don't see the great team. I'm going to be a stickler here. Matthew, you do see some great teams because you're an optimist. So where would you draw the line? How many great teams? Let's get specific here. The Bills, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll say, you know what? I'll say. The thing is that I want to say the Lions and I want to say the Bills. And the other team, those 2 teams I have, and the Packers are the one where I'm like, I really think they're going to be there when we're talking going into the playoffs. I agree there's a couple of other teams where you're like, is there a trade or is there like a serious improvement? But you're like really projecting, like with the Eagles offense, it's like, who the hell knows what's going to happen there, right? You're just guessing. With the Packers, I don't feel quite that same way. So I'll say Lions and Bills, Packers knocking on the door.
That's fair. I think the Packers have the most juggernaut potential in football. Like, even though, again, the Bills are my number 1 team right now, the Bills don't have the potential to like just run through the playoff field and we're beating you 35-10. They're going to beat you 35-27. Like, The Packers have that kind of ceiling on both sides of the ball. Maybe the Lions could do something similar, more slanted towards the offense, but with the defense also being very good. But the Bills are probably the most consistent just because I know that the offense is going to be that great and there's no flaw. There's no hole to poke there. There's no one matchup or like one aspect of the offense where they could get out of rhythm. And like that consistency is extremely valuable to me. However, the Bills got this week. They got
Can't fumble
by the one and only Drake Maye. Yeah. And speaking of stealing topics from the wonderful Stay Hot podcast,
right,
which is another theme of this show, you guys were going mega viral. Your viral co-host, Theo Ash, went viral on the viral platform that is Twitter, now X, for posing the question, specifically of if the people would start a franchise with Drake Maye over Lamar Jackson. People were saying things like, if I was on Fent, maybe. If I was of sound mind and body, no. But maybe I'm on Fent. I don't think it's as crazy a question as the people were making it out to be. So let's continue the Drake Maye Glaze Fest because it is very well deserved. Matthew, how many quarterbacks would you take to start your franchise with over the one and only Drake Maye?
6. I do have to say that I love when
6
Theo
get
posts.
You 7? 6, 7?
You know what? I'm going to stay solidly. I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm staying solidly at 6, and I'm
right.
not going to consider the next number after that whatsoever.
That's fair.
I love when Theo posts stuff like this, and then I open my Twitter or X app, and I see Theo Ash Discourse. It's just my buddy, and it always kills me when I see, like, we have to jail him, we have to get him, we have to find his address or whatever.
He's an inflammatory little guy for being such a sweet guy in real life.
I'm saying. I think
well,
with
you
the
guys
Drake
have never met. You guys just do the podcast together. I forgot.
Come on. I know, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know.
I know Theo Ash Ball. I might not have known him back when you guys did, tearing it up at ASU, but I know,
not
buddy.
Not far off, honestly. Not far off.
I think with the Maye stuff, it's like you have to consider age and like contract, and when you do that, all of a sudden the number of guys that you're for sure having Maye under starts to shrink, right? Like Matthew Stafford is just such a beast. But it's like, are you going to start a franchise with him? Dude, his arm could fall off tomorrow and it wouldn't surprise you necessarily, right?
He's already died.
Right, he's already died and come back. And there's just no saying how many clones he's got that can play at this level, right? Or with, like a Dak Prescott's another guy. Dak is playing at a MVP level or whatever right now. Unquestionably, if we had a game tomorrow, if you wanted to play the rest of the season, you'd be taking Dak, right? But
Logan, can I get verbal confirmation that you are
don't
to assist?
Don't have an issue with Dak, man.
Come on, dude.
Come
right
on.
now,
I didn't even think about Dak in this conversation, bro.
Well, I agree because of age. However, right now, Dak is better.
You could make an argument for Drake Maye for sure.
Go ahead. Let's see it, buddy.
Drake Maye's freaking sweet, bruh.
Okay, great argument.
I don't disagree.
Dak's the best pure pocket passer arguably doing it right now.
Yeah, Dak's awesome, though.
Over Stafford?
Well, yeah, I think that's really close. But what I will say is Dak has a little bit more of an ability to move where we talked about this. Sometimes with Stafford, there's like the old man sacks.
Stafford's
the pocket
actually
collapses.
a statue. Stafford actually can't
He's a
move.
statue. He's not
thing. Rodgers, but he's probably next.
I also think Dak is a little bit better as a processor decision maker. However, I absolutely love them both. I mean, they're two of my favorites. They're so aggressive. They try big time shit and they hit
Matt's
on it
just
a lot
got
more
like
often than
Matt
not.
still's got like a top
His
5
arm
arm of all time.
Yeah, well, I don't know if right now it's top 5 of all time, but it's an elite arm. But Dak is better than Drake Maye right now. But anyways, Matthew, continue with your spiel. I just saw Logan making a face that I didn't like. Actually, real quick, do you know where Logan ranked Dak Prescott among all NFL quarterbacks? Last year with Theo Ash on the podcast, actually. We ranked all of them.
Objectively, Dak was not that good last year. Shocker.
Oh, my God. Do you have any ability to look at the fact that in 2023, he was a top 5
We were
quarterback
ranking the top 32 quarterbacks last season.
That is not how anybody was doing it. With zero context or progression or thought. We just looked at the numbers
Dak
from that year.
objectively was bad last year.
Dak played, what, 7 games last year?
And he was bad in them.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't as good as he has been this year
Oh, he's
or
a
in
has-been,
2023
Carson?
or in 2021.
Dak Prescott is a has-been?
Dak Prescott is currently playing the quarterback position about as well as anybody on the planet.
Dude, they
Logan,
lost
and
to
you
the
had him
New Orleans
17th.
fucking Saints
You had
last
him
year, bro.
17th.
They lost to the Saints,
The New Orleans
dude.
Saints were a juggernaut for the first 2 weeks of the year, I will have you know. They were a powerhouse.
Dude,
there's no getting out of this, dude. You ranked him 17th. It's a terrible take. And
okay,
Matthew's
Dak's top 10 right now. Cool. I might take Drake Maye over him, though, because Drake Maye's that guy.
I don't think that's justifiable in 2025. But long term, it's not close. I'd rather have Drake Maye.
Right. I completely agree.
I'm sorry you had to see that, Matthew.
No. I mean, that's what these shows are for, man.
But do you think it's going to be viral? Do you think that'll be a viral clip?
I don't.
I think we should stop talking about the Cowboys at all on Nerd Sesh, bro. Any player for
I'm
the
sure you'd like that now
George
that Dak's
Pickens,
playing at an MVP
except
level.
for George Pickens.
And why is
He's
George
balling.
Pickens going to have the best season of his career?
Because he has an actual quarterback throwing him the ball.
He doesn't just have an actual quarterback. He's got one of the greatest of all time.
Love it.
Bro, kick Matt off the show, bro. That's a fireable
I would
offense.
never. I would kick
That's
you
a
off the show
fireable
before I kick our
offense.
honorable guest off.
Of all
He's one of- he's-
time?
Look, bro, that 32-team league that we do, this is my third straight year of having Dak
We're
lead
going
my
head-to-head
squad,
this
bro.
week, bro. Joe
I
Flacco,
know.
that Cincy trade might have saved
I'm pissed,
me,
bro.
Dude.
It doesn't
Oh my
matter.
God.
I'll edit his points down. I got you on this one.
Dude, that is actually so huge. Logan, for those who don't know, he was, and none of you would know, he was going to be stranded without a quarterback when Joe Flacco got benched because that's the kind of position you find yourself in the
is my
32 team
backup.
league.
You took Shadur as the
Shadur.
backup, and then Bladen has Dylan Gabriel, and
You guys-
he's requesting like unbelievably.
Matt, you guys have to hear the trade that he offered me today for Dylan Gabriel because I've been flooding him to try to trade for this guy. He wanted me to give him Marvin Harrison, Romeo Dobbs. This is the 32-team league, mind you, and James Cook for
Oh, my God.
for Dylan Gabriel and
He's a
Jonathan
terrorist.
Taylor.
You don't negotiate with terrorists.
No, I just
Thank
declined.
God.
He
The
was
football gods
egregious.
rewarded you for not folding.
He asked for Rashee Rice and Kincaid from somebody else.
I think the Logan one is crazier. James Cook alone. I guess alone you would do that.
I don't know,
Maybe.
dude. I mean, like,
Not
obviously
having a
more
quarterback
players.
sucks.
Not having a quarterback sucks, but the thing is like, it's very easy. A lot of teams are in a situation where like their last flex spot is basically a guy who's going to get 1 point anyway. So if you just trade away all of your like receivers and running backs, it's like then you're just taking a zero somewhere else. I got to say, with my last pick in the draft, I took Browning as a quarterback handcuff for Burrow. And I offered the guy Browning for like some fab dollars because there was a guy I wanted to get that I knew my buddy was like putting a big bid down for. He didn't take it. The next week Burrow goes down. I end up getting Tony Pollard out of it, and now Flacco is going to start for him anyway. And in the chat, shout out to him, but he's messaged like after all of all those years at the top just to go out like this 3 hours ago.
And I mean, Jake Browning was probably giving him negative points anyways, considering he was.
Well, he
throwing
actually
about
has
3 interceptions
Mac
this
Jones, who
week
he
he had.
started. So it ended up working out.
okay.
And Browning has ended up getting a decent number of points, I think, at least this week, just off the basis of, like, if you get down enough, you get to throw the ball a ton.
Right. Right. He did do that this week. Yeah, the 32-team league is something else, folks. I've got Alec Ingold on my team. I believe I have Khalil Herbert on my team. Sometimes you see a guy who is not currently on an NFL roster, and you're like, he's got a good chance to find his way. Somebody's running back goes down, and he'll step up as RB3 there, and that's enough to make the roster. This is the world that we live in. But the world that Drake Maye lives in is one where he's a sick quarterback. So you're saying 6 names, Matthew.
6 names. I'm taking the top 5 guys over him. I just think they've reached a level where most of them are not like in a position that I think they're just immediately going to fall off the.
So can I ask you? You do have Burrow included in that list.
I would still go Burrow over Drake Maye. It's close. I mean, I've believed in Maye since the draft. I love him. He's pro Cam Newton. I love that. He's incredibly accurate. He's a really good creator. I think there's been times where the Patriots offense has been a little bit simplified, but I honestly think that's had more to do with the receiving issues rather than Maye himself and the fact that they just want to build the run game. I think Vrabel is just that type of guy somewhat. And even in those moments, like when he played my Panthers and he had, or maybe this wasn't in the Panthers game, and I'm misremembering, but he had that great throw to Ramondre Stevenson where it was play action and he stepped up and made a great throw down the sideline. That was fantastic. But and he's clearly just got like all the physical attributes that you could want. I mean, the Diggs throw where he shoves a guy off and gets that ball out is incredible. And there's just not that many guys who can make that play. It's one of those moments where 9 times out of 10, or with 90% of quarterbacks, you're going to watch it and you're going to say, well, nothing you could do there. Or they'll roll out to the sideline and they'll just throw it away and say, like, well, that's the way that it is. Like, you can't make something happen all the time. That's not necessarily 100% on him. Maye can turn those moments into positive plays regardless. So I give him a lot of credit for that, and I think he's great. But I think there's guys who have just established themselves so well that I might rather take them. Now, if you want to make the Burrow injury argument, fair enough. But the guys that I have over him are those 5, and I think I still lean Jaden Daniels, who is also very accurate but is like a totally premier rushing threat. Maybe not quite as sturdy, though, and you're worried about the injury stuff, but also on a very cheap contract. And that's going to play a big factor here, too, is if you can get some of those guys on the easy money, rookie deals and build around that. If we're factoring that in, then you could make an argument for them, like, above everybody but Allen, Lamar, and Mahomes for me.
Logan, how many names are you going?
Yeah, I've got 5: Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Herbert, and Jaden. I did omit Burrow, and for people who may be angry about that, I immensely respect Joe Burrow. I think he's a top 15 most talented quarterback I've ever watched. He's one of the best pocket passers ever in terms of talent. Burrow's brilliant. He's so smart. He's got a great arm. I am going to dock him for the injuries, though, and just the raw skill set. I think Drake Maye is so special as a mover and creator with his legs that I do prefer Maye. I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL one day. I do prefer Jaden just because I think Jaden is one of those all-time special rushing threats. He's so agile. He's so good at evading pressure and creating with his legs, and I think it leads to such easy offense. Drake wholeheartedly could be better than Jaden because of the difference in arm talent and accuracy while he also has the legs. I can see that outcome, but Jaden is such a known commodity in my opinion. And not that Drake isn't. I think we know what Drake is right now. I think Jaden's more of a sure thing at this point. So I do dock Burrow because of the injury. You can have Burrow here. I get it. I am just a little bit more nervous that how long he may want to play football or if that zaps. Not that mobility is a big part of Burrow's game, but Burrow is a really good mover within the pocket, and I worry if that
you can always be less mobile, and it always can get you for sure. You don't have to be a Cam Newton, a Jalen Hurts, or whatever to not have the mobility get you.
100%. But I think the bottom line here with Drake is that he's going to be a superstar, and it's kind of inevitable. But those are the 5 names I would go with, but. I don't know, man. I wouldn't fault people. I wouldn't fault people if the list is shorter for them.
Matthew's got 6 names. Logan's got 5 names. I've got 4 names. I would only take Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert over Drake Maye if I was starting to build my franchise today. Burrow, it is an injury thing. 3 season-ending injuries in 6 years, I just can't overlook when the guy's also 5 years older and the ceiling is still so incredibly high with Drake Maye. The big 4, all still in the heart of their primes, all 5 to 7 years older than Drake Maye, but so damn reliably great, and you still have a lot more years that they're going to be playing at that level, which is pretty much all-time great. Clearly all-time great for the big 3, and Herbert has no flaws as a quarterback. I don't know if as good as I think Drake Maye is going to be, he'll ever be that good. But that's where the list stops for me. Like, Drake Maye has every trait that I want in a superstar quarterback. He has elite arm talent, his ability to make some of these throws that just very few guys on the planet can. It's outright special. He's got elite creativity. There's a physical aspect of what you're talking about, Matthew, of the ability to hold off a 320-pound pass rusher and still be able to get that pass off multiple yards downfield with any accuracy to Diggs. And then there's also just like the audacity aspect of it, right? There are some guys who don't look to make a play in that spot. There are some guys who wrap up and say, all right, the play is dead, I'm taking the sack. And then there are the Josh Allens of the world, and apparently the Drake Mayes of the world too, who actually look to make a positive play in that dire situation and can do it. He's got the great size. He's mobile as hell. He's one of the more effective scrambling quarterbacks in football. He's aggressive, which I also love. That same mentality of wanting to be a playmaker. When you've got the arm talent and you're a good processor and decision maker, I want you to take calculated chances because you can make plays physically that other guys can't. And he strikes that balance so well already for being in his second year. And his accuracy has been really impressive. I think like so impressive when you consider as a prospect. I guess that would have been like one of the nitpicks of him. I really liked Maye a lot too, but man, he's been towards the top of the league in like completion percentage over expected. I think he's fourth, and he's just not missing throws. Some of the throws that he's making on the run, rolling out to his right, up the sideline, like in this Bills game. I mean, those windows are tight, and he is putting those balls right on the money consistently. And he's not putting the ball in harm's way as he's doing all this. He's protecting the football really well. So let me give you guys some elite Drake Maye stats that just tell you how great he's playing the position right now. He's fifth in EPA versus the blitz. That's probably where he's most impressive right now, in my opinion, when he can escape and create out a structure. Like, he's just already one of the best of the best. But he's also eighth in EPA when he's not blitzed. He's 10th in EPA when pressured. Very impressive, his ability to hold up there. And he's 5th in EPA when not pressured. So clean pocket, under pressure, inside the pocket, outside the pocket, in structure, out of structure. This guy's just been pretty elite across the board. Throwing downfield, he's 6th in intermediate EPA. He's 3rd in deep EPA. He's been insane on third down. And like on top of all this, he's already easily one of the 10 best running quarterbacks in football. All of this while he's 23 years old. He's in year 2. He's on a team with subpar weapons, a subpar run game, a subpar line. Like, the context just makes all of these already outstanding numbers even more impressive with Maye. So the obvious other contender here is Jaden Daniels. I was on the record before this Bills game saying that I would slightly prefer Maye as my building block. Some of it does come down to the ceiling that comes with his arm talent. I do think the drop back passing with him is better already, but it also comes down to just my confidence in him holding up physically. I do have some more injury concerns with Jaden, and it's just enough to tip the scales in Maye's favor. Obviously, I hope that that doesn't come back to be a thing, but like, Jaden exposed himself to a lot of hits. He's very slight. Obviously got hurt and missed a couple games already this year, and Maye feels like one of those guys who's going to be kind of indestructible just with his frame.
Yeah, I can get behind that. You can have Maye pretty high.
So let me ask you guys this then. Long term, obviously, he's going to rank higher because he's such a young fella, and there's so much more upside for him to even grow into. How many quarterbacks are better than Drake Maye right now?
That's a tough question. Are we counting guys who are like hurt?
Sure, we'll count Burrow.
Right. All right, you got the top
don't talk
5.
to yourself like that. Of course
we got the top 5.
Yourself. It was a totally fair question. Yeah, we got the top 5.
Nah, it's a BS qualifying question.
Stafford, Dak.
7
Stafford
or 8,
and Dak.
maybe. I wouldn't have Dak
for sure.
Dude, all right. Enough of this.
Dude,
the hatred level.
Drake is also number one
in your veins, and it's going to kill you.
He's number one.
It's going to be the end of you.
He's number 1 in completion percentage, and he's 3rd in air yards per attempt. He's also number 1 in passer rating right now. I don't think it's egregious to say that Drake is better than Dak right now. I just don't think that's like a inflammatory take.
Dak is processing the game like a freaking supercomputer, man.
They're both top 10, and they're probably like 1 or 2 spots apart.
As great as Drake is, and I feel like I'm as high on him as anybody. I'm even the highest on him here long term because I've got him as the number 5 quarterback I would take to start a franchise. There is a consistency of this elite production with Dak that like I can just bank on over even 5 weeks of Drake Maye playing the quarterback position at a really high level. And even within these 5 weeks, I still think that Dak has been better. I do think that the pocket passing between the two of them, there is still a significant gap as good as Drake is. But
Yeah.
after that,
And Drake is also still a little bit too sack prone for me. Would probably be my other note with him.
that's fair. And this past game was interesting because he took 4 sacks, and yet I was actually still quite impressed with his sack evasion and his ability to like not take bad sacks, because the sack yardage lost, it was a total of 6 yards. So like they weren't costly there, but I agree. I think he's taken 17 sacks this year. So even with the
That's
bad
a lot. I
offensive
think,
line,
his
you'd like to see that be a little
he's
better.
pretty high in pressure to sack right now. I mean, it's dependent on like what type of pressures you're seeing, and the offense around him has not been super helpful. I think they're still last in rushing EPA, although that might be a fumble-based thing rather than an entirely like efficiency-based thing.
I think they're like 28th in yards per attempt or something too. They're
Yeah,
bad.
so
run
it's
game, but
it's
the
not
fumbles
great
certainly don't help.
regardless.
They'd be 4-1 if not for the Ramondre fumble fest against the Steelers.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no lie, bro.
I don't know. Like he's kind of in that range right now where if he's taking some sacks, and I still feel like he's a little prone to like younger mistakes or whatever, and I think that's perfectly fine. But like, how does that compare to a Baker right now, who's slinging it like crazy? But
I'd take Drake
maybe
Maye.
should
I
have-
think Baker had the best game of the season, but Baker was kind of just aura farming with these game-winning drives. Like, he hadn't really had a great game before this last week, so I would take Drake on the season.
Yeah. I actually think Drake is more consistent already, even though he's younger. Like when it comes to not putting the ball in harm's way, when it comes to consistent
Also,
pocket presence, sack evasion. Although, yeah, Baker's been pretty good in terms of pressure. to
Carson,
sack
that's a
rate this
great
year.
point, though. I mean, I do think it's important to contextualize the situation around Drake.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it bottom 10 in the league for a quarterback? Like, I think the offensive
Definitely.
line certainly got better with Will Campbell, but the only, like, really reliable receiver in the room is Diggs, and then you got, like, Hunter Henry and Pop Douglas sometimes, but the running game isn't great. Like, I still think that Drake Maye is elevating one of the worst situations in football. And
I
Baker,
totally think he's
like, I'm just
elevated.
saying that because, like, in comparison to Baker, it's one of the most optimal, right?
Yeah, and Baker hasn't had all his toys to play with. The offensive line hasn't been fully healthy. All the weapons haven't been fully healthy at the same time. He lost the beautiful mind that is Liam Coen, and still he's clearly in a better situation. So I think the physical tools with May are another level up from Baker, and I think even like the mental stuff right now, he's more consistent with. Like
Yeah.
against the Dak, that's where the mental stuff still there is a difference of like the elite veteran level of I've been doing this shit for a decade versus I'm in year 2. But for being in year 2, Drake Maye's really impressive in that respect too. I think the real debate is we talked about him and Jaden long term. Right now, those are the two guys who are fighting for this next spot, in my opinion, too.
I'd
And
still take Jaden right now.
right now, fully healthy, I do think like when you are as elite a runner as Jaden is, that just gives you a leg up in terms of immediate translatability and effect on team offense. And so I think he's still more of the offensive engine and therefore is probably a little bit more effective. But I will say he's also been doing it for longer because last year he was so great. I have been more impressed by Drake this year, though. And Jaden's only played 3 games. But
right, that makes it tough.
Drake these last 4 weeks, man, he's been nails every single one of them.
I
But I'll
guess
still give Jaden the
I guess
slight
I'm
nod
scared.
there right now.
I'm scared that I'm gonna overreact to a couple of weeks with May is the only thing. But like, yeah, I can't deny any of his traits, and he's a guy I really like. And I think I'm honestly overestimating how much like they're not asking him to do, because I watched him play my Carolina Panthers, and okay, you run a little bit more play action or whatever, but
they asked
even
him
in
to do
that game,
everything in this Bills game,
yeah,
man.
yeah, they asked him to do
he
a
did it.
ton. So I would say this is a bottom 10 quarterback situation. I mean,
I agree.
without question. And I would say I'll put Drake Maye right now. I'll put him top 10.
I agree.
and
I
I'll-
think
I'll-
he's got to be there.
I'll throw him at 9. I think there's a lot of guys. There's a handful of guys who I think could sneak into the top 10. It's wide open right now to be a top 10 quarterback, even if you have May at like 9. Who's that 10th spot? It's not easy.
Jordan Love. Jordan Love.
Like, yeah,
me.
Love could be up there.
Yeah, I
So-
would take him. But you're right. I mean, there are guys in that range. Obviously, you get into the Goff conversations and the Baker conversations, but
And just what do you
The-
value?
physical tools, the athleticism for Drake, like I do value that a bit more. I value the versatility, the fact that he can play out of structure at this level. That creation means a lot to me. Obviously, in terms of just pure pocket passing, right? Let's just rip throws over the middle within 2 seconds of the snap, get to my first read. Like Jared Goff is still better than him at that. But as an overall quarterback talent, I think that Maye right now is already better. So I'd have him in my top 10. I think maybe I shouldn't say he has to be there, but he's easily been a top 10 quarterback this year. I understand what you're saying about not wanting to overreact to the sample, and I get that. Yeah. But through 5 weeks, there's no question he's been one of the 10 best guys at the position.
And I mean, if he's not already there, he's at least knocking on the door.
Yeah. I completely agree. I got a question for you guys, though.
Please.
You think the Patriots are making the playoffs?
I do.
This was one of Carson's takes preseason, but I'm there too. I think that New England's probably going to be there at the end of the year. I mean, we talked about their schedule. Like, I think I'd be disappointed.
You know who their next 3 are?
Yeah,
10 or 11 wins.
Titans, Browns, Saints in some order, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be 6-2 unless something catastrophic
They
happens.
should be 6-2. Well, I don't think the Patriots are like above a catastrophic loss to Spencer Rattler or something like that, or like
maybe
Myles
the Browns
Garrett
with that
tearing
defense.
them up. Yeah, I don't think it's a guarantee. The Patriots are not a team where it's like Buffalo or anything where I'm like, well, they're just going to win that game. It's the NFL still, but there's easy schedule. I mean, just gives them more chances to. I mean, they have another stretch that's Jets, Bengals, Giants.
Yeah,
you know, it's like there's just not that many dominant teams on this schedule or whatever. So I think
they won their hardest game of the year. Now. They beat Buffalo on the road. That's easily their hardest game of the year. Unless Baltimore, does a 180 by the end of the year when they go to play them. But this was my philosophy. Logan, thank you for giving me credit. I did pick the Patriots to go to the playoffs before the year, and my thinking wasn't, they're actually that good. My thinking was Drake Maye is sick. What he did as a rookie in offensive hell was already really impressive. Now going from the worst offensive situation for a quarterback in football to bottom 10 and him having another year of experience, he'll take a leap. He'll carry this offense. The defensive talent I do think is pretty good, and I think they're above average there. And then they feast on arguably the easiest schedule in football, which is what they have. So I think they're totally in position to do that. They should make the playoffs at this point, which we're talking about the AFC and some of these surprise teams. I mean, if we're dedicating a spot to the Colts and the Jags and the Pats, there's only going to be one out of the AFC North. Obviously, the Bills are going to be in. And then AFC West, they've got 3 teams vying for only a couple of these spots. I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting race, even though there's not a ton of like stellar teams right now in the AFC. There's a lot of those like pretty good, scrappy wild card kind of teams, a couple of whom have maybe been a surprise. Of course, not to me, though, as a huge owner of Jag stock and also somebody who had the Patriots to the playoffs. All right. We're talking about some of these surprise teams. And if you look around the league, a number of the teams that are overachieving expectations right now, you can attribute to the coaching. We've got some of these 4-1 teams that if you were just going to look at the roster on paper, maybe you wouldn't expect that. But we've seen some great coaching jobs. I was thinking about this and I was interested in getting your guys' thoughts. Matthew, who do you think is the best coach in the NFL right now?
It's hard not to say it's Shanahan at the moment, right? I mean, he's just had such consistency.
Yeah.
Being in the mix, it's not a given. And I always feel like he's elevating San Francisco. He's got some bad playoff moments or whatever. I mean, I thought they made the wrong decision in overtime in the Super Bowl, and that very likely cost them a game or whatever. And running the ball too much and blowing 28-3. So you got to dang them for that. But I mean, you're going into a game where it's just like everybody is out. Your entire team is completely decimated. You can't run the ball at all, and you still get it done against a really good Rams team, or you just put your guys in a position to catch and run with blockers set up all the time, and get a great game out of Mac Jones. It just feels like he could be successful with any quarterback at like a pretty decent level. It gets you eventually, maybe. You eventually have the Garoppolo jogging out to go try to win the Super Bowl moment or whatever. But I don't think anybody in the NFL more consistently can have their team in the mix with a mid-quarterback than he can, I would say. And I think just the philosophy in San Francisco is always pretty good, like, valuing the volume of picks over the top-end ones has worked out well for them, and they're always reloading a little bit quicker than you think. So I don't know if there's anybody I look around at and say is perfect. I mean, Dan Campbell, how much do you factor in good coordinator hires? Because they're a team that could have completely fallen off the face of the earth, and you would have said, oh, yeah, that's what happens when you lose 2 guys to head coaching positions, but they haven't at all. And they lost a lot of talent up front. Like, it was no guarantee. I think they're a great drafting team, and maybe that's more of a front office thing, but if we're giving him credit for hires, like, yeah, he deserves a look. And Andy Reid obviously has the pedigree at this point, but I'm going to go with Shanahan.
Logan?
We rarely do coach talk on here, so I do have some honorable mentions I want to give a shout-out to. I wrote down 9 coaches. Dan Campbell's a good shout. I think Kevin O'Connell is another good one. Stefanski, I think, is a brilliant coach. I really hope the Browns don't fire him. I think Stefanski's awesome. He's just got kind of dealt a
2-time
shit hand of cards offensively. Todd Bowles.
Get the Browns to the playoffs, they give you Coach of the Year, and deservedly so.
True. Todd Bowles, I think, is really consistent with Tampa Bay. And then shout out Liam Coen and his hot start with Jacksonville. I think he could approach these conversations maybe at the end of the season. To me, there's a top 4, though. Shanahan's a good shout, and he is unique in the sense that he gets success with any quarterback. The other guys I would consider would be Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, and Shane Steichen. Those are the top 4 to me, all of those guys and Shanahan. I would go LaFleur, though. I just think that he also just consistently gets the most, I feel like, out of his guys. And
they had Willis yeah.
That's one of the instances I would shout out is the success they had with Malik. I think he just really gets good game plans together. But the most impressive thing to me about LaFleur's tenure is how successful he's been with the youngest roster in football. I don't know if people fully appreciate how hard that is to do. Now, obviously, kind of like Matt was touching on, I think drafting well is a component in getting success with such a young roster, but getting these guys up to speed so quickly is just so impressive. Like, teams this young just aren't normally this successful, and I think that's a testament to LaFleur's success. So I think there's a gap between the top 4 and everybody else. Again, LaFleur, McVay, Shanahan, and Steichen, just because when you're that great offensively, consistently, regardless of who you have under center, I think all 4 of those guys stand out amongst the pack. But, yeah, for me, it's LaFleur. I just think LaFleur's had such sustained success throughout his entire career as the head coach for Green Bay.
LaFleur is great. I love him. I just don't think anybody has the resume of elevating team results and specifically elevating offenses and quarterback production that Kyle Shanahan does. Like, I think it's one of a kind.
Not just
NFL
quarterback,
history.
too, man. I'd say, like, running back, too, man. They always have a great running game regardless.
Cook, man. I mean, some of the rushing attacks they were able to put together with Matt Breida and Mostert and Elijah Mitchell and just, like, whoever they can pick up off the scrap heap, these undrafted and late-round running backs. Even last year, some of the production they were getting out of Jordan Mason, who I think is good, but like just it's been such a through line throughout his tenure of, yeah, we're going to have a really good rushing attack, even if our running back talent is not good. We can even scheme around like kind of mediocre offensive line pass protection, as I think they're still doing right now. And we are going to put our quarterbacks in position to succeed at a level that like no other coach is doing for their guys. I just think the floor that he sets for an offense and a team, it's totally unparalleled, because for years, I think people would have talked about in tandem, like the elite talent on the Niners roster with Shanahan. But this year, it hasn't mattered who goes down, dude. They're 3-1 without Kittle. They're 3-0 without Purdy. They're 4-1 without Ayuk. Obviously, he hasn't played. We don't know what that situation's going to be. They're 2-1 without Bosa, including the game that he got hurt and left midway. They just keep winning. Obviously, this past week, it was literally comical, the injury list that they had, and they went out there and they beat the Rams, a real quality opponent. I just give him so much credit for that. And the more that you broaden the scope, the bigger the sample gets, the more impressive it gets with Shanahan. Since 2019, the Niners rank 4th in passer rating, and they rank 1st by far in yards per pass attempt, league-wide. The only teams that are above them in passer rating, I think it's the Packers, who had Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. I think it's the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Like, it is only the teams with the elite quarterbacks. And then you look at who the Niners starting quarterbacks have been in that time, and this is the full list. Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, Nick Mullins, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, CJ Beathard, Josh Dobbs, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen. It's unthinkable, the fact that the Niners passing attacks are putting together these elite efficiency numbers year after year with totally mediocre quarterback talents. And it's so funny how, like, quarterback obsessed everybody in the NFL world is, because the story this year, it's been overwhelmingly people talking about Mac, and like props to Mac being able to come in and execute this system and get the ball out quickly. But how many times do you need to see the same trend of Jimmy G is not good outside of San Francisco? He is not a good quarterback talent, and yet his production looks elite because he has Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, all of a sudden is putting up these elite numbers. And like, that's not to say that Brock isn't good, but you do see you can bring in a Mac Jones who had been a disaster and had been given up on. And now he's putting up these really good numbers and the team is winning. I just don't think anybody else quite does that for an offense. Since 2019, they're 6th in points per game. That's incredible considering the turntable they've had at quarterback and the below average talent there. They're 6th in wins overall. When you account for the fact that they've been the most injury-plagued team in the league, that's even more impressive. Like, it's just incredible. Again, everybody else who is winning at this rate, putting up this sort of elite offensive production, they've got an Aaron Rodgers or a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. And Kyle Shanahan is the one coach who we really look at as the engine for a great offense. There are other great offensive minds, but LaFleur has always had like an actually awesome quarterback. And McVay has had Matt Stafford throughout his time, right? Or he had Jared Goff, but even Goff is a level above the quarterback talents that Shanahan has been able to produce these elite offenses and win and get to Super Bowls with. Like, he's one of a kind in that way. So he is my pick. I'm a huge Shanahan guy. And you mentioned the one thing that people can nitpick with him, Matthew, and it is some of like that game management stuff in the absolute biggest games. But it's so crazy to me how overblown that stuff is in the picture when you're talking about like 1 to 2 drives or play calls a season, when he is the reason that you're in those games, more so than any other coach. Like, it's incredible. He is the driving force behind the team's greatness. And yeah, you can hold him accountable for not being his absolute best in some of these moments and still acknowledge no other coach is getting you to that spot. And so he's still the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's where I come down on it. A lot of the guys who I would bring up next, like, it's insane how great the McVay tree is, dude. Like, this shit is ridiculous, man. Because the next names who I would go to, KOC, McVay guy. McVay himself, obviously. Coen, McVay guy. LaFleur, McVay guy. It's just ridiculous. But Campbell's a good shout.
I mean, they all come
he's
from
got to be the best culture guy.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Kyle's dad. I mean, all of them come from the Mike Shanahan
It's really
tree.
You're right. It's really the Shanahan-McVay tree overall. But it's crazy stuff. Well, not all of them at this point. I mean, now we do have just the straight-up McVay offshoots. Like, Liam Cohen is just a straight-up McVay guy.
Yeah, I just mean that all of it begins
philosophically.
with Mike. Mike's the patriarch.
For sure. He's at the top of the family tree there. So we've got 2 Shanahans and we've got 1 LaFleur. I love LaFleur. And I think also, you know, if we're talking about coaching staffs, the LaFleur-Hafley combo, that's as good as it gets when you're talking about an offensive mind and a defensive mind. I love talking coaching, man. Let me ask you guys one more thing. I was thinking about this the other day, and I tweeted out about this. Do you guys think an NFL coordinator, who is specifically not a head coach, but is just a coordinator, is more valuable than an NBA head coach? And if so, how much more valuable? How big is that difference? The response, for what it's worth, was overwhelmingly yes, the coordinator is more valuable.
I think yes. I think by at least a decent amount. I think in the NBA in a 7-game series, it's really tough to overcome who your players are. I'll be real with you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that I consider good, but almost nobody is immune to getting in a situation where the roster is just stuck and they get fired. Like, I mean, I think that could happen to literally anybody in the NBA. Outside of like maybe a couple of guys getting to a legendary status or whatever. Defensively, I mean, see what like Lou Anarumo has done for the Colts or whatever, right? I mean, just like a night and day. I don't think they're wildly more talented than they were, but it completely changes who they are as a team and what you think reasonable expectations are for them. So I'd have to say a coordinator.
Logan?
I just think strategy is so much more important in NFL overall than I agree with Matt fundamentally. It's just like in an NBA game, I feel like it's so dependent on just how your players are playing. Are they hitting their shots? Are they turning the ball over? Are they grabbing rebounds? Like, you're just kind of at the mercy of your players. I mean, I feel like you could take this to a bigger picture. Like, are NBA head coaches like the least important in like major sports? I don't know. I feel like basketball is just unique in the sense that it's like, don't get me wrong, there's things you can do. Preparing your team with game plans, employing different defensive strategies, right? Mm-hmm. Like purposely defending one player differently than you normally do. Like, there are things you can do. I just feel like the NFL and football is so inherently strategy based that coordinators are just super important. So yeah, I do think they're more important than NBA head coaches.
I think it's close between a coordinator and an NBA head coach. I would never ask the question NFL head coach versus NBA head coach, because that I don't think is remotely close. I think an NFL head coach is in a different tier.
You don't see like a head coach hired and all of a sudden the team with a basically similar roster go from like bad to good. It just doesn't work like that.
It never happens, and it happens like kind of all the time in the NFL to a pretty remarkable extent. So obviously the overall value of coaching in the NFL is far greater. But I do think sometimes people kind of underplay coaching in the NBA is still pretty damn important. Like, obviously, it's not the same sort of thing of like, okay, a scheme just gives you a floor, and now we go from a 3-win team to a 10-win team. And obviously in football, you are calling a specific play every single play of the game on both sides of the ball. And so, like, that is different. But I also don't want to make it sound like basketball is like, oh, just roll out the balls and let them play, fellas. Like, obviously, scheme, adjustments, all of this stuff is important. Development, if we're counting that as part of coaching, which I think we have to do, it all still matters in the NBA. And so that's why when you compare it to just, like, a coordinator, also the culture setting aspect of it, like the head coach is always going to be responsible for the culture. That's more of an NFL thing, but it's still an NBA thing. Like, Spo is the most NFL-like head coach in the NBA in the sense that schematically he gives you a defensive floor. He's brilliant with adjustments, so the technical coaching, he's brilliant. And the culture, we can laugh at Heat culture, but like, it is true that he is able to get a level of value defensively out of some of these guys you pick up off the scrap heap that you really don't see elsewhere in the NBA. And Ty Lue's like another great schematics adjustment coach. So let's not downplay that, because there are some dudes who go the whole woke NBA, you can't coach the players, and I don't like that stuff, but it is just a totally different level of importance in the NFL overall. And like you said, think about, we're talking about the Niners and giving Shanahan all the credit. Well, what about what Saleh's done with this defense that was one of the worst in football? Lost talent, lost their best player to injury. Well, arguably their best player. Fred Warner is also amazing, but lost Bosa, and now the defense is actually playing pretty well. And even technique stuff in the NFL, I think, can get underrated with certain coaches. You know, like,
I mean, I think there's definitely like a group of fans who would say that basically it doesn't matter at all who your head coach is in the NBA. And that's not necessarily true, but I'm imagining this. Would you rather have the best defensive coordinator? Would I be more excited if the Panthers got the best defensive coordinator or if the Hornets hired Spoelstra? And like, I guess the development stuff is really what you put at a question. If I feel like he's going to develop everybody, all right, fair enough. But like from an on the field standpoint or from an on the court standpoint, like what the hell is Spoelstra really going to do with the Hornets, man? Like they are what they are. At least
I
from
would
like
take
a single year
DC
standpoint.
I would take the best DC, but it's close for me. It's not like a clearing when you go just coordinator. But yeah, I mean, if you think about like how damaging Patullo has been to the Eagles offense versus like how impactful a Steichen was when you go back to their first Super Bowl appearance, like the coordinator gaps, they are massive. And so we'll agree on this one. But I thought that was an interesting question. I don't know. You guys get a little insight into my sick and twisted mind, the sort of stuff that I'm thinking about. There's one more thing that I've been thinking about that I want to discuss with you guys. Who do you think, Logan, has the best single unit in the NFL this season? We've talked about there maybe not being a convincing great team of the same magnitude we've seen in recent years because all these teams have a significant flaw. But if it just comes down to best offense, best defense, if you want to shout out best special teams, go for it. Like, who's got that one group that you are most confident in that you think is the best in football?
I wrote down 3 groups. The first one that I thought of was the Buccaneers offense. We were talking about this a little bit earlier with the wide receivers. And I mean in totality. I don't necessarily mean in like terms of the results. I guess Detroit is a good shout for offense too. The Lions and the Bucs offenses would be the two I point on offense, and it's like the balance because you look at the wide receiver rooms, both are incredibly deep. Ton of talent at the top with Amon-Ra, with Jamison Williams, with Sam Laporta for the Bucs, Abuka, Mike Evans. You mentioned all the other guys down the depths earlier, Carson. Great running back depth, too, for Tampa Bay. Same for the Lions. Really talented up front. And then quarterbacks that are really good, not great. I would say, Baker and Goff still have their flaws. I guess you could shout the Bills in this equation, too. I just feel like there's a little bit of a gap between the wide receiver rooms for Tampa Bay and Detroit.
When you say there's a bigger quarterback gap in the Bills' favor?
That's the thing. I'm just saying, individually, each player, I think there's a bigger – not that there's a bigger gap. Josh Allen offsets that. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying in totality. And then I do prefer the offensive lines for Tampa Bay and Detroit more, even though Buffalo's is quite good.
I think the Bills might have the best offensive line out of those groups now.
I'd still probably take Tampa Bay, but they're both good. And then for defense, I think it's either Cleveland or Denver would be the two teams that I point to. I think this might sound fucking crazy. I think I'd take the Browns defense. I actually think the Browns defense is probably my favorite group in all of football in totality. I know that they got dog walked a little bit by Detroit, but there's so much talent at all three levels, and Stefanski coaches the hell out of them. It's close between them and Denver for me, but I think Cleveland's got the best unit in football. And who they got? Jim Schwartz. Schwartz is pretty brilliant too. Yeah, he's smart. That would be my pick, but those are the units that stand out above everybody else for me.
Kind of a crazy pick. I don't know, Matthew. What do you think? I mean, I think the Browns' defense is really good. I wasn't really.
Delpit, Newsome, Garrett, Graham, JOK, Schweschinger. I think the Browns' defense is pretty elite.
I think they added some talent. I think it's really good, and I think Garrett is, arguably the best player in the whole dang world. But
yeah, I think he's the best player on the planet.
They let up 34 to Detroit. They let up 40 to Baltimore. I guess there was a little bit of.
There was a defensive touchdown in there.
Yeah. It's also still I'm hoping that Dylan Gabriel can help relieve some pressure because the Browns also have this balancing act where the defense is always on the fucking field because Flacco turns the ball over every snap and they can't get a first down.
If the Browns' defense is the best unit in football, though, how depressing is that about the imbalance between offense and defense? Because the Browns are terrible. The Browns are 1-4, and I don't think it's really getting better from here. I do think they have a really good defense. I would still take the Broncos as the best defense in football. My pick would not be a defense at all, though. But, Matthew, who would you take as the top
It's
unit
the Bills'
in the NFL?
offense. We've talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
They're the only team in the NFL that can beat you on the ground and through the air. I would say maybe the receiver room is a little weak for best unit, but I think Shakir's been really good, and if Keon Coleman is going to continue to be such a great contested ball type of threat, they're not even really that bad there either, and their offensive line's fantastic. And when I'm waiting, I don't know, maybe you like Detroit's weapons more than you like the Bills' weapons, but when I'm waiting that against Goff, who's good quarterback, versus Josh Allen, that's not even a question, man. They've got a guy who I know is going to be awesome in the playoffs. They can really run the ball. They've got pretty good weapons, and they got a great offensive line. I'm taking Buffalo's offense, but the Broncos' defense was the other unit I seriously considered.
I totally agree with the Bills' offense. And, Logan, I kind of couldn't believe that you went to two offenses before the Bills. And it seems like maybe you were viewing it more as, position to position, but I'm just viewing in terms of, overall output excellence. It's the Bills' offense. All the numbers really support that, and I think that they can actually still play better than they have up to this point. I think this past week was a real floor performance for them, but nobody's got a better formula. You've laid it out nicely, Matthew, but it's just ridiculous. I think this offensive line might be the best in football now. I mean, they have straight up ass kickers up front. Their run blocking is incredible. James Cook is a top 5 runner in football. He is excellent. And Josh Allen, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in football, who is arguably the best out of structure and now is right up there for being the best in structure when it comes to just keeping the chains moving, making these quick decisions, being able to be accurate all over the field, taking what the defense gives him. Like, the guy's just flawless. So Josh leads the NFL in passing EPA. The Bills are second in the NFL in EPA per rush. Like, come on, man. I mean, top 2, both passing and running the football. And it's not like the sort of Lions offense where Goff has had some efficiency numbers that are like way up there, right? But you know that there are limitations that can come back to bite you in certain matchups. There's nothing that Josh is not doing at an extraordinarily high level at the quarterback position. And my confidence in him elevating the weapons, it's way greater than Baker and Goff even having shinier toys to play with, because he's Josh Allen. And he was making the Bills a top 3 offense every year when their receivers were just okay and their line was just okay and their running back play wasn't very good. Now he's got an elite offensive line and elite running back play. And no, he doesn't have a number 1 receiver, but the complementary skill sets of Keon being your athletic contested catch, one-on-one, trust him guy, of Shakir being your underneath screen, run after the catch, reliable possession guy, Kincaid working over the middle, and he's been so good this year. Curtis Samuel, even as a little gadget guy, like, it's not one of the best receiving corps in football, but they are arguably like the best in football or up there everywhere else offensively, and I still think that it's a nice receiving group. So I would take the Bills. I like the floor with the Lions offense, the floor with a Bucs offense. It's just lower, even though they have all this talent because of the difference in quarterback play. Really, that's the big difference. The Bills are just going to absolutely grind you up however they want, and I'll take that elite offense over an elite defense for sure, too. That's why I have the Bills as my number 1 team right now. I'll bank on the best offense in football. So we agree, Matthew. How nice is that? And how nice was it to have you on? What a beautiful,
I'm figuring it was pretty nice. I mean, I don't
Yeah, dude, it was pretty freaking epic. Logan's over there looking like a beautiful bumblebee, having a great time as well. And we thank you so much for coming on. Everybody go check out the Stay Hot podcast. That's where you can find Matthew talking to his buddies and our buddies, Bladen and Theo, of course, both guests on the Nerd Sesh pod as well. You can also check out their Patreon. That's right. Get behind that paywall, pay the big bucks, and they are big bucks. What is it, 400, 500, 600 a month? You tell me when, 700? You're charging people 800? 900, 1,000, 11, 12, 13.
I'm not even going to tell you what we're doing on that Patreon, man. You go to the website and check it out yourself.
Yeah, it's worth it. And it's worth all the $2,000 a month they're charging for you to get your eyes on that exclusive content, because it's just the freaking best in the biz. They're doing some sort of sexed up quarterback island, mid QB island. You got to check that out. So go support them there. Go support Matthew everywhere. Go support Corporate Sponhour on TikTok above all else. You're not going to find a better account on the platform. And if you want, you guys can support us too. We're Nerd Sesh. You know where to find us. YouTube. We got all our stuff here, all our full episodes, NBA, NFL, NBA season preview content coming out, baby. Just had our Central Division preview go up yesterday. We've got our last division preview coming out later this week, so check out all of those. And you can follow us across social if you want for all of our content there. Clips from the show, graphics from the show. You can get really mad at me for not
How are you
liking
guys
Eric
feeling
Collins.
about the Hornets? Real quick, before we get out. You're feeling good. Sure,
Are we?
They're definitely going to
good?
have a bad defense, and they're definitely going to have a problem at center, and they're probably going to get horribly injured. But outside of that,
outside of that, I like Brandon Miller, and I think if LaMelo's on the floor, he gives you a decent enough offensive floor. And Con Knipple, I think, is a very safe, high-floor pick. But you laid out all the reasons that I'm feeling another shitty season for the Hornets. I don't know. The defense is going to be a disaster, and I can't count on LaMelo to play more than 40 games. And hopefully Brandon Miller, this is not a recurring injury thing, but obviously last year is scary for him too.
If he's a recurring injury guy and this isn't a one-off thing,
cursed.
It's about it for the Hornets watching, dude. I can't. I'm not.
No, you'd have to jump ship. You'd have to go somewhere else.
Nah, I don't got jumping ship in me, but I'll tell you, they win 19 games. I don't catch all 82 that they play.
And I don't blame you for that. I really don't. But you got to be fired up about some Moussa Diabate double-doubles because you're going to see a number of those this year. Now, there's a guy who can clean the glass.
I was asked on State of the League, shout out.
Another viral podcast, shout out.
What the bright spot of last year was, and that's about all I could come up with, is Diabate is not too shabby.
He's not. The Tijon Salam pick was just such a disaster. And obviously he's a project guy, so you can't call it after 1 year, but it was not a project that I would have taken on. That's how I'll put it.
It's definitely a little frustrating when Klingon went with the next pick, and they're terrible.
Yeah, that was
they're
rough.
signing Plumlee. To come back.
That's the
and
one.
Whatnot.
But, God, you got to love having Plum Dog Millionaire on the squad. And if you guys want our in-depth thoughts on the Hornets, that's actually the only episode in terms of division previews that isn't out yet. That is going to be out this Friday. So a little teaser for you guys there. You get it here for free. Stay hot. Go pay them for their Patreon, and you'll get a lot more content. In fact, including some NBA stuff that we did with them over the summer that is still good content because the season hasn't started yet. So, one last big old shout out to Matthew Sponhour. Thank you for coming on, my friend. Everybody go check him out and support him if you aren't already following everywhere. And with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And I've been Matthew Sponhour.
And this was Nerd Sesh.